It looks like our nation is going down. Seems like the media has won. The churches have been complicit.
This is Greg Locke literally crying because he believes that the media won and that churches comply. I don't even know what that means. The dude is like the embodiment of a persecution complex. He is obsessed with the idea that he and everybody around him are deeply persecuted. It's ridiculous, dude. Oh my God. So he held this event at his church called Reawaken America, the Reawaken America Tour. I actually talked about it a lot this week, so if you just kind of scroll back for this previous week of videos, you'll see a few different people who appeared there. Real nutter butters, all of them, including Greg himself. But he brought up some interesting subjects that I wanted to talk about. So continue listening to what he had to say in this ridiculous persecution complex-laden speech that he gave, where he's literally crying because he thinks he's being persecuted when he's not.
Our world's been engulfed with depravity, lies, every form of debauchery.
You mean people making their own free choice as free agents? The horror, right? I thought he's a Republican, and Republicans purport to be in favor of freedom. Small government, more freedom, right? What happened to freedom? Freedom's not for the sheeple. What happened to all that? Suddenly, he doesn't care about freedom. He cares about forcing other people to live exactly the way he wants them to. Isn't that funny how that works?
Every form of debauchery has been unleashed on this nation and on this world.
And on your mom.
We see the whole reset coming. We see the beast system being set up before our very eyes, and the church has been complicit with it.
Okay, now what he just said right there, the whole reset, is relevant. You can see it in the background here a little bit, right? Let's see if I can get the camera to move. The Great Reawakening is kind of a QAnon slogan, the Great Awakening. It means everybody's going to turn to QAnon, basically. And the Great Reset, as you can see, and like on the right side here a little bit, is a reference to a conspiracy theory that is one of the more confusing ones out there. It's almost meaningless. Almost meaningless. But here, I actually kind of did a breakdown where I talked about it in this article the other day. Let me just give you this explanation in the form of a clip. Let's just read through. This is a BBC article on what the Great Reset is. This is the title, What is the Great Reset and How Did It Get Hijacked by Conspiracy Theories? A vague set of proposals from an influential organization has been transformed by online conspiracy theorists into a powerful viral rallying cry. What is the truth behind the Great Reset? Believers spin dark tales about an authoritarian socialist world government run by powerful capitalists and politicians, a secret cabal that is broadcasting its plan around the world. Despite all the contradictions in the last sentence, thousands online have latched on to this latest reimagining of an old conspiracy theory, updated for the age of COVID. Yeah, the Great Reset conspiracy really came straight out of the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. This old book I've mentioned before multiple times, written by anti-Semitic people that basically described the Jews' plan for world domination. It was completely made up then, and it's made up now. Anyway, let's keep reading this. Where did it begin? Like many popular conspiracy theories, this one starts with a grain of fact. In June 2020, so 5 months after COVID really came to the shores of the U.S. and the world started taking it seriously, June 2020, the Prince of Wales and the head of the annual Davos Summit launched an initiative calling for the pandemic to be seen as a chance for what they called a great reset of the global economy. A flashy launch video interspersed images of a world in chaos, a dead killer whale, a hurricane, a kangaroo caught in a fire, with a speech by Prince Charles. We have an incredible opportunity to create an entirely new sustainable industries, the prince said. The time to act is now. Now, as I'm sure you've surmised at this point, the Great Reset is a massive conspiracy theory that encompasses nearly everything, but doesn't really have any details. It's weird how it all formed out, but think about this. Who serves to gain from the conspiracy theory that we have to prevent economies from serving the workers. The original plan that was being outlined at the Davos summit, when it says calling for the pandemic to be seen as a chance to reset the global economy, they were saying reset it to be more amicable and fair and more equitable to workers. Serve workers' rights. Who serves to gain from spreading this conspiracy theory? Really? You can't convince me that billionaires around the world were not involved in turning this into a conspiracy theory. You can't convince me. The other founder of the initiative is Professor Klaus Schwab, head of the World Economic Forum, which organizes an annual summit in a Swiss ski resort for some of the world's wealthiest and most powerful people. He explained the idea behind the Great Reset in an article accompanying the launch. The pandemic represents a rare but narrow window of opportunity to reflect, reimagine, and reset our world to create a healthier, more equitable, and more prosperous future. Who do you think had an investment in making this fall apart and turn into a conspiracy theory? Who do we know that is opposed to making things more fair and equitable and healthier? And suddenly, out of nowhere, it just explodes, and every conspiracy theorist in the world buys into this Great Reset thing. There's a Great Reset podcast and even a 280-page book, but the plan is light on specific detail. Professor Schwab does speak about a wealth tax and ending fossil fuel subsidies. Interesting. Who would be opposed to those things, I wonder? But the scope is huge, covering technology, climate change, the future of work, international security, and other themes, and it's difficult to see precisely what the Great Reset might mean in practice. This lack of clarity, combined with the plan being launched by an influential organization, provided fertile ground for conspiracy theories to grow. This is Klaus Schwab right here. A conspiracy theory is born. The proposals, along with the WEF itself, face legitimate criticism from a variety of sources. Conservative political figures and media outlets accuse the organization of pushing for environmental policies that would hurt the economy. Weird, huh? So it sounds like the Great Reset was intended to improve environmental policies, to make the world more equitable and fair for the worker. What were some of the other things they listed here? Create a wealth tax, work on technology, work on climate change, work on privacy rights, a whole bunch of other stuff. Such a weird... Who created this conspiracy, I wonder? What group of people would be opposed to these things? This is so weird. We'll never know. We'll never know who was opposed to this. What group of people could have started this conspiracy theory? It's just a mystery. There are questions about whether unelected individuals like Mr. Schwab should have the power to lobby so prominently for ideas that could potentially transform the global economy. Okay, well, he's unelected, but he's free to voice his interests and concerns. Everybody is. That's the nature of democracy. The Davos meeting is certainly filled with powerful people who have a huge influence on world events. There are also concerns about the impact of technology on civil liberties and jobs. But the real energy online is not about legitimate political questions, discussions about fossil fuels and income inequality, but in the shape of wild and unsubstantiated claims. The term Great Reset has received more than 8 million interactions on Facebook and been shared almost 2 million times on Twitter since the initiative was launched, according to BBC Monitoring Research. Number of Great Reset posts on Facebook, posts using keywords between June 2020 and May 2021. Among the most popular posts are baseless statements that the Great Reset is a strategic part of a grand conspiracy by the global elite who somehow planned and managed the COVID-19 pandemic. In this narrative, lockdown restrictions were introduced not to curb the spread of the virus, but to deliberately bring about economic collapse and a socialist world government, albeit run for the benefit of powerful capitalists. So there's mention of the Great Reset when the plan comes out, June 2020. And then Justin Trudeau released a viral video about, the Great Reset, and it just exploded in the number of posts online about it. The number of posts on Facebook. Interesting, right? And then conspiracy theorists started coming up with all kinds of crazy ideas. In this narrative about the COVID-19 pandemic, lockdown restrictions were introduced not to curb the spread of the virus, but to deliberately bring about economic collapse and a socialist world government, albeit run for the benefit of powerful capitalists. The nebulousness of this conspiracy theory means it's found followers among anti-vax activists, anti-lockdown campaigners, New Age healers, and those on the far right and the far left. J.P. Sears he used to be kind of funny, but now he's a complete nutcase. And he's got like millions of subbies, I think. It's the guy in the middle of this picture right here. You'll own nothing and be happy, the Great Reset. Now look, Franklin Graham, televangelist, even got in on the action. How did it go viral? These conspiracy theories began circulating online around June 2020, but only gained significant traction later in the year. On November 15th, the phrase started trending on Twitter when a video went viral showing Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau at a UN meeting in September, saying the pandemic provided an opportunity for a reset. It's unclear whether he's referring to the WEF plan. But some claimed his speech was proof that global leaders were using the pandemic as a pretext to introduce a range of socialist and environmental policies. Thousands of Trump supporters boosted this idea. They claimed that a victory for Mr. Trump in November's election was the only chance to thwart the so-called secret plot. They called it Agenda 2022, I think. Agenda 2022 or Agenda 2020, something like that. And the idea was they wanted to have... Or maybe it was Agenda 2023. I don't remember now. The idea was that they wanted to have the Great Reset fully implemented and a one world government implemented by 2023. But no, it was 2020. And Trump getting elected in 2016 thwarted that plan and pushed it off. And now it's Agenda 2030. It just completely made up, all of it. It's all entirely fabricated out of the ether. So that is the Great Reset. I hear you asking, but what is it? And the answer is nobody knows. I still don't know what it is. Nonsense, that's what. It incorporates every conspiracy theory known to man. Lizard people and socialism and one world government, all of it. It's insane. So, yeah, it was picked up by QAnon and basically everybody out. Every conspiracy theory of every variety. QAnoners, anti-vaxxers, anti-lockdown campaigners, New Age healers, people on the far right, people on the far left. Like, it's just widespread is the point. Here are some other points that have kind of been worked into the conspiracy. The pandemic was created by the elites. Microchips will be injected into people that alter people's DNA and act as like your credit card, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So, yeah, it borrows ideas from like a ton of conspiracy theories from the 18th and 19th centuries. It's just nuts, dude. It's just nuts, all of it. Thanks, past me. So anyways, that's what the Great Reset is. And that's why it's so deeply ridiculous that this guy is like talking about it, claiming that the Great Reset is upon us and all of this garbage. Like, oh my God, dude. This conspiracy conference was absolutely unhinged from reality. This is one of the more tame speeches from this conference, too. There's another woman there named Liz Crokin who just went on and on and on about Pizzagate and Hillary Clinton trying to take kids and drink their blood and all kinds of nonsense, dude. Oh my God. Let me just play like a short section from this. I just want to catch one of the craziest things she said.
Enforcement, FBI, the Department of Justice, that they look into Hillary Clinton and crimes against children. But it's not going to happen unless we demand it. So
it's just not going to happen, dude. It's all made up.
I encourage you all to get involved, speak up.
Because these nutcase extremists that appeared at this conference aren't already speaking up and getting involved and trying to convince everybody that, like, QAnon is real and stuff, right?
Expose this stuff. Talk about that laptop. Talk about Anthony Weiner's laptop.
Just, oh my God, dude, it gets absolutely unhinged from reality. So anyways, yeah, that's what was happening at Greg Locke's church this past weekend. Really, really interesting to hear him just open up and tell us what he really believes. Sometimes he's kind of veiled about his political beliefs. Like sometimes you gotta kind of coax it out of him. And he doesn't really like to drop names very often anymore. He used to do that constantly. But now he almost never talks about Donald Trump, really. It's weird. Okay, let's just keep listening to Locke talk about his persecution complex again.
We see the whole reset coming. We see the beast system being set up before our very eyes, and the church has been complicit with it. The murder, the demise, the ungodliness, the spiritual warfare has literally engulfed the world.
Yeah, so anyway, his speech was absolutely bizarre and unhinged and confusing as hell, and it was just full of, like, persecution complex, like, nonstop. So anyways, I want to listen to a voicemail I got from somebody the other day. Check this out.
Hey, Owen, this is Jasper from Mass again. Unfortunately, I go to the gym, and they do have Fox News on one of the TVs.
They have Fox News on a TV at the gym. Wow, that sucks.
And I noticed something very peculiar for you to review. I don't know if you'll be able to access it, but I don't know if you're aware of the new commercial for Turning Point USA about the Great Reset. I just wanted to see you maybe review that because it's definitely very questionable, to say the least. I enjoy your show. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I appreciate the phone call. It was really interesting. I did see the Turning Points USA video about the Great Reset, and Charlie Kirk was like endorsing the Great Reset or whatever and saying it's evil and blah, blah, blah. I don't want to watch the video because I heard background music in it, and I worry that he may have inserted that intentionally to prevent other people from using it and criticizing it. You know, Fox News tends to do that. But I at least give you a rundown about what the Great Reset is in case you were unfamiliar. In Charlie Kirk's case, the founder of Turning Points USA, I believe, I think the whole goal behind, talking about the Great Reset in his case was to try to sell his book. I think the whole thing was to try to get people whipped into a blood frenzy, convince them that he's on their side and that he is opposed to the World Economic Forum and, Klaus Schwab, is that who it is? Klaus Schwab and all of those other people. It was just virtue signaling garbage intended to help him sell his book. That seems like what it was. But anyway, yeah, thank you so much for the voicemail. Just bizarre, man.
Hey, this is Ellie from California again. I was wondering if you heard about Pope Francis saying that homosexuality is not a crime. Like, he said it's a sin, but it's not a crime. And I can only imagine that televangelists are crying in their beds over this information. Okay, have a good day.
Yeah, that was actually pretty interesting. I appreciate the voicemail on that, bringing that to my attention. I looked into it, and sure enough, here's an article on it. The AP interview, Pope says homosexuality is not a crime. Of course it's not a crime, but it's moving Catholicism a little bit more to being accepting and more progressive than it was before. Boy, I know a lot of people who aren't happy about that right now. Some bishops out there, like, God, what's his name? I don't even remember his name now. There's some bishop out there that's a complete nutter butter over, gay people. It's just ridiculous. Anyway, let's just kind of skim through the article here. Pope Francis criticized laws that criminalize homosexuality as unjust, saying God loves all his children, just as they are, and called on Catholic bishops who support the laws to welcome LGBTQ people into the church. That's a pretty big deal. This is from January 25th, by the way, 2023. It's a really big deal. He is supposed to be like God's avatar on earth. He's speaking for God. The fact that a pope is coming out and saying this is big. And I find it kind of interesting that he waited for Pope Benedict to kick the bucket before he brought this up, not for nothing. Being homosexual isn't a crime, Francis said during an exclusive interview Tuesday with the Associated Press. Francis acknowledged that Catholic bishops in some parts of the world support laws that criminalize homosexuality or discriminate against LGBTQ people, and he himself referred to the issue in terms of sin, but he attributed such attitudes to cultural backgrounds and said bishops in particular need to undergo a process of change to recognize the dignity of everyone. Well, the fact that he called it a sin in the first place isn't great. I'm not really happy about that. The Bible only mentions homosexuality a total of 6 times. I think 4 of them are in the Old Testament and 2 of them are in the New Testament. Now, the Old Testament, in my mind, is fulfilled. Jesus fulfilled it, so we don't have to even look back to it. We can look forward, right? A lot of people think that one of the mentions was about Sodom and Gomorrah being gay. No, it's not, actually. Sodom and Gomorrah were destroyed, according to Ezekiel 16:49 and 50, because of their ill treatment of the poor. Behold, this was the guilt of your sister Sodom. She and her daughters had pride, excess of food, and prosperous ease, but did not aid the poor and needy. They were haughty and did an abomination before me, so I removed them when I saw it. So Sodom and Gomorrah were not destroyed. Just ignore the buttery mail. Sorry about that. Sodom and Gomorrah were not destroyed because of, gay people or whatever. The only mentions are like in the old law and a couple of other places, which in my mind are completely irrelevant now. We should look to what Jesus had to say on the subject, right? And would you be surprised to find that Jesus said nothing? He said nothing because it wasn't an important subject. If it were, he would have brought it up. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. So anyways, that's fantastic news about the Pope saying that it's not criminal and that it shouldn't be criminalized and that people shouldn't support, criminal, outlawing it or whatever else. That's good news. That's moving things in a more progressive direction. I want him to move further. I want him to stop calling it a sin, but that's a step in the right direction at least.
Hey, I've been watching your Telltale Reads channel, and with the guy who's saying Trump is the Christ, you were talking about the number of pages in each chapter.
Yeah. And so if you're not familiar with this, I have a YouTube channel called Telltale Reads, and I read books. So I just got through reading Greg Locke's book, We Will Not Surrender Through Silence, This Means War, something like that. Each video I release on that channel is independent of the rest. You don't have to see the others to understand what's happening. If there's a subject that interests you, you can just jump in right there, see what's happening. But I read the book called Donald Trump, the Son of Man, the Christ. This is the cover right here. You may recognize it. There's a famous picture of a guy holding it at a Trump rally. He handed it out all over the place. Yeah, I just finished this book on Reads, and oh my God, dude, it was just something else. It was a struggle making it through because it's such a confusing train wreck. It's like getting a glimpse into the guy's head, and I did not like what I saw. It was just disturbing and weird and confusing as hell. But anyways, yeah. One thing I mentioned while reading it that this caller is bringing up is the fact that the chapters start out normal lengths, right? We're talking like 7, 8 pages, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, and then the next chapter. They're normal lengths by and large, but by the time you get to the end, like chapter 26, it's like 4 pages, and then 3 pages, and then 2 pages, and 1 page. They start out normal lengths, and then they end up like being really, really, really short for no reason seemingly. So yeah, let's continue listening to the caller.
Chapter. Have you tried their fake gematria, taking how many pages in each chapter and doing them with the ABC 1, 2, 3 and see if it spells anything?
That's a good question.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a really good point. I have not tried that, and the reason I haven't tried that, if you don't know what gematria is, it's this ancient Hebrew thing where you assign a number to each letter, like A is 1, B is 2, C is 3, and you take a word and you add up all of the corresponding numbers and you end up with like a sentence, or you end up with like a message or whatever. It used to be used in Judaism as like a kind of like a Sudoku. It's just a cute little puzzle you give to like bar mitzvah boys with like a moral message on one side and a number on the other or whatever. It's not that big of a deal, but Trump supporters and QAnoners particularly have gone completely off the rails with Gematria. They think that there are secret messages hidden in everything. They're scanning the Bible, counting the number of verses between each book, and adding this up and coming up with sentences that mean this and that and blah, blah, blah. It's just crazy, dude. So the question was, have I taken the number of pages in each chapter of this book and kind of converted them to a sentence or something? I have not. And the reason is because I'm using Amazon Cloud Reader, and it changes the size of the pages. I have no idea how many pages are actually on each chapter. So someone's going to have to get the physical book and do the Gematria for me and let me know. If you have the book, then count the pages in the chapters and do the Gematria. Let me know what you come up with. I'm 100% sure that this guy inserted a secret message in his book somewhere, because that's what the whole premise of the book was, that there's a secret message hidden in the Bible that he discovered and he has to reveal to you. That's basically all he talks about for like multiple chapters. In between him plagiarizing Wikipedia, that's all he talks about. So yeah, I'm very sure he hid a message in there. I just don't know what it is. But yeah, thank you so much for the voicemail. It was pretty interesting. Maybe take the 33rd word from each chapter, then make a sentence out of it and see what it says. Oh, God, there's such a vast combination of possible things that he did to insert a secret message. It's possible that even with, a group of like 1,000 people trying to figure out what the message is, they never would, because there are so many weird little things he could have done. The most likely is he probably did exactly what the caller said, which is, took the numbers of pages, or hell, maybe the numbers of words in each chapter. I don't know. Or numbers of sentences in each chapter. Who knows? There are a billion possibilities. And he used that as the basis for this secret code to give us a message. And what's the message? It can't mean that much that you'd spend more than 5 minutes thinking about it. What could it possibly be? Trump is God? I mean, that was the point of the whole book. You don't need to put it in a secret message to say that. Just say it, right? The hidden message in his book is by glory. By glory, I mean dick. Yeah, probably. Yeah, again, that's something that he straight up said. He just came out and said that, dude. He said God means dick when he says the word glory in the Bible. Dead serious. You guys just have to read that book for real. It's nuts. Birdie Gamer, do you think sanity will win and QAnon will lose relevance? It's a really good question. They largely already have lost relevance. QAnon gained prominence in 2017, 2018, 2019 by spreading memes that were hashtagged Save the Children and using this claim, this factoid, if you will, that 400,000 something children went missing per year in the United States alone. That's missing context in reality. Yes, those are missing persons reports for minors, but a lot of the time that's like a kid wandered off at a mall and went to another shop, and the report was filed and the police recovered the kid and returned them to the mother within an hour or something. These are not children that just disappear into the ether entirely, who are captured by Hillary Clinton, brought to a facility where they can be drained of their blood, every week or month or year or whatever else. That's really what they're trying to communicate. QAnon used that hashtag to popularize this claim that 400,000 went missing every year in an attempt to justify the belief that 400,000 children were sold into slavery per year in the United States. Over a 20-year period, that'd be 10 million kids. That's absurd on every level. That's nuts. No reason to believe any of that stuff. But using those hashtags, manipulating the algorithm of Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and all of the others, they gained massive prominence. And I strongly, deeply to the bottom of my heart believe QAnon is actually a Russian psyop. I believe that Russia was attempting to get a foot in U.S. politics, and it went viral. I have a lot of reasons for believing that, not least of which is because every time there's a conspiracy theory that comes out that only benefits the Kremlin and literally nobody else, it comes into the U.S. through QAnon. Like, here's one, for example, Delora O'Brien, full-blown QAnoner, nearly immediately after the Ukraine war started, and I'm talking a month after, everybody supported Ukraine at this point. Literally every person in America, or practically every person in America, supported Ukraine at this moment, right? Delora O'Brien, QAnoner, comes out with this conspiracy theory after the Ukraine war started.
I'm not on Putin's side. I'm not on Zelensky's side. I'm not on Trump's side. I'm on God's side. God's side is the side of truth. It just so happens that right now, our President Trump is on the side of God.
Trump had not been president for a year and 2 months when this video came out, but okay.
Also, believe it or not, so is Putin.
I don't, matter of fact, I don't believe it.
Right before I came on here, this is what was sent to me. A Russian soldier, I even have his name and I can't give it. I'm sorry, I can't. Just research it. I'm sure it'll start coming out.
And it never did. It never came out.
Searching for bioweapons. There was him and a few of the other soldiers.
Interestingly enough, this conspiracy about bioweapons being seized or whatever in Ukraine, this was not a thing up until this moment when she started saying it. This wasn't a claim that was being made at this point in time that, they were trying to cleanse Ukraine of bioweapons that were being operated by the U.S. or whatever. Up to this moment in time, Russia was still using the tagline, "We're fighting Nazis." It came to the point where Germany had to step in on Twitter and say, "No, you're not. You are not fighting Nazis. We know what that means. We know what Nazis are all about, and you're not doing it." This is the moment in time, early March of 2022, when Putin decided to go with the claim that there were bioweapons that they were trying to seize in Ukraine. Completely made up. Nonsense. But here we have a QAnoner, of all people, pioneering this conspiracy theory in America. Weird, right? Really weird. What a weird thing to come out of QAnon. Conspiracy theories that benefit literally nobody but Russia. Conspiracy theories that literally no one was saying except for Russia.
Searching for bioweapons in central Ukraine, stumbled upon a child trafficking den.
And that's how they got it to appeal to the QAnoners in general. They fit in this conspiracy that Russia wants to propagate throughout the world, and then they link it to something that they know QAnoners will really care about. Save the children, right? QAnon is an arm of the Russian government, and it's recycled Nazi propaganda. Dead serious. Anyway, thank you so much for the super chat. So Birdie Gamer says, do you think that sanity will win and QAnon will lose relevance? The answer is QAnon has already lost a lot of relevance, but it keeps getting relevance pumped back into it by Russian propaganda campaigns. So I don't think it will ever be at the peak that it previously reached in 2017, 2018, 19, but it will never fully die because it's being funded by a foreign government, in my humble opinion, in my informed opinion. As time goes on, society gets more and more progressive. Like, look at the wins that we've had. We won women's right to vote. We won ending slavery. Not necessarily in that order. We won ending black segregation. They don't have to use different water fountains or bathrooms anymore. We won women's right to have a credit card and rent a car, and rent a house in their name. We won the right for gay people to get married. We won all of these things, and it was generation after generation, lots of hard work and struggle and fighting. Hell, I mean, not even civil rights issues, but we won the battle on climate change largely. Basically, everybody accepts that climate change is real at this point. There's still some outliers, some nutter butters out there that are trying to throw a wrench into the works, but by and large, society has accepted that climate change is a real problem now. Certainly more than they did in the 2000s, right? As time goes on, society gets better. It gets more progressive. It moves further to the left. And The right keeps trying to go back to a time when things weren't the way they are. The 50s, presumably, or the 60s, or 70s, or 80s, or whenever it is. It's not now. It's earlier, right? The left wants to move forward. The right wants to move backward. Unfortunately for the right, society always moves forward. So I know it feels bleak sometimes. It's really not. We will move forward. We will progress. We will build on the accomplishments that we've got right now. We might take 2, 3, 4 steps backward, but we will absolutely take 10 steps forward again. Just give it some time. Don't stress. Do your best. Don't worry about the rest. I didn't mean for all of that to rhyme, just the last 2 sentences. Anyways, yeah, just keep pushing through. Things will get better. Hey, Owen, I have a question. Do you think Greg Locke is evil or ignorant? Birdie Gamer. Thanks for the super chat. A little bit of both, but mostly ignorant. I think he's mostly ignorant. I think he's a true believer. But I think he also cynically uses people to get what he wants, and he most definitely lies. Flat out, blatantly lies about things from time to time. I was watching a video from Greg Locke forever ago, months ago at this point, and he was up here reading a supposed quote-unquote threatening email he received from some local Freemasons. I looked up, the person that sent the email isn't real. There's no record of that person existing in the area or in the Freemason logbook or anything like that. Also, it's a name from the movie The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, so I'm really skeptical that this email even existed in the first place, but Greg Locke is out here reading this supposed threatening email from Freemasons that he received, supposedly, and then he does this. This happened October 26, 2022, by the by.
God strike me dead right now if I'm lying. Honey, come here and tell me I ain't crazy. I'm telling you, God's on truth. God strike me dead right now if I'm exasperating the truth. I'm reading the email, and it is gone. I'm talking about right now. And I want to read the whole thing because I'm piss poor mad about it. Yeah, I said piss. I'm real mad about it now. That thing better jump back up here in a few minutes, and me and the Mason Lodge going to have a time, praise God.
It's a long video, but he later goes on to claim that the Freemasons logged into his phone and deleted the email while he was reading it. It's just complete nonsense. That's not how email works. That's not how technology works. As a software engineer for 6 years, I know how this industry works. He's full of it. So in some cases, I think he's lying. Blatantly, flat out, bald-faced, lying. And I think he knows that he's doing that. But on the other hand, I think he believes his own nonsense. So I think that the lying is in an effort to convince others. It's called an ends justify the means mentality, and it's ultimately justified through theocratic warfare. You are allowed to do literally anything. Any action's justified to accomplish your goal of bringing people to God, even if it includes lying, stealing, manipulating, cheating, whatever.